Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Network Buzz, a Laketec podcast. I'm your host, Mike Trappe, here for another episode. We're going to dive into a topic that's near and dear to Jason's heart over here. We're going to dive into some AI for networking. Don't call me networking for AI, and we'll dive into why that's different. And that's the dumb guy telling you things that we have already discussed right there. What's going on, Jason?
Not too much, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for coming on. First time on Network Buzz. Been at Laketec for a little bit. So hey man, I'm happy to have you in the room and having this conversation. It's gonna be cool.
I'm super excited as well. I've been here since April here of 2025, and surprised we didn't do one sooner, but it feels right. It feels like this is the right time for one.
Yeah, well, and evolving how we're doing this a little bit, right? Like kind of how we're producing these and getting content out and the content schedule itself. Like it's a lot of stuff evolving here, not only with Network Buzz, with Laketec itself, and a lot more to come there. I'll get through the housekeeping stuff first and just say, thank you everybody who's been watching and everybody, comments and followers through whether it is, on a YouTube channel, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you everybody for tuning in and really appreciate everyone spending their time with us. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming up as we are evolving not only how we do things here at Network Buzz, but websites and all sorts of stuff. So stay tuned for all that here coming up. But we'll dive into AI for networking here and try to squeeze this into 30 minutes if we can, as we always try to do here. But yeah, Jason, we'll start just kind of your journey a little bit, and then we'll build into the topic and what takeaways and all the agenda that we kind of built out, and we'll do our best to stay on track.
Sure.
But tell us a little bit your story, kind of, where you started, your passion lies, how you got to, this point here with us and all of the other things you've done along the way here. Go ahead.
Sure. No, happy to. So, started my career in tech in 1999. So, started up doing dial-up tech support. So walking people through
cutting your teeth.
Yeah. And there were some harrowing moments there of, explaining to people that yes, the squealing and scratching on that phone line is supposed to happen. And, I think I actually recall one particular call of somebody, I said, okay, we need to refresh your settings, so I need you to get the CD, that has all of our settings on it, and put it in the CD drive. And they're like, well, what's the CD drive?
That's a compact disc, everybody.
Yeah, compact disc. Yeah, I forget. Maybe not everyone in our audience knows what those are anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, put the CD-ROM in your drive, and they're like, well, what's that? And I'm like, well, on the front of your computer, you push this button, and a tray will come out. They're like, oh, you mean the cup holder? I literally were setting cups on the CD-ROM drive. So had a lot of interesting experiences, and cutting my teeth and learning how to support others. And, from there went on, and spent a lot of time in the service provider world. So, worked in, regional service providers, from, 99 until almost 2016. So, a long time in that world, and bouncing around in various roles, whether it was junior engineering roles, worked my way to director, VP of engineering, but then started to realize that as much as I'd liked the just straight engineering, focused on bits and bytes and speeds and feeds all my career, in particular in networking. Started to determine I liked the human side. I really liked going out in the field and talking to customers and helping them solve the problems they have, realizing, and there was many cases where customers would say, I want to buy this thing from you. And then you went to go deploy it and you realize this is not what they need at all. The customer was just uneducated about what this thing was when they asked for it. So came to understand the value of solution selling. So actually talking to somebody about what problem are you trying to solve, right, which is where you should always start. What problem are we trying to solve? And then based on that, figuring out, through a technical lens, ways to solve business problems.
For sure.
Really came to enjoy that, and so I moved from straight engineering roles into more solutions architecture roles, and then in like I said, it was from 99 to 2016. I was bouncing around to various service providers, and then eventually I I started my own company.
Just a leap. Yeah.
That's right. It's like I was now or never. So I just turned 40 years old, and I was like, you know what? Always wanted to give this a shot. So this is the time. And I actually started the company with the guy that hired me at the dial-up company in 1999. So we
Back to the roots. There you go.
yeah, exactly. We'd stayed in touch and worked together in various capacities over the years, and at all those companies that we were at, and decided to start a managed and professional services company that did things a lot like Laketec does, a lot smaller, and obviously, Laketec is an older company, been around for a lot longer than we had. But from 2016 until last year, ran that company, and then exited and decided to take some time off for a little while, and then got to talking to Joe and Ben here over at Laketec.
Well, I laughed because you said that's how you started your company and you knew somebody since 99. And then but you've known these two guys for quite some time too.
I have. I actually, back in, I think it was around between 2008, 2010, somewhere in that time frame. I actually had talked to Laketec about the possibility of a position and coming over. So I've always admired Laketec from afar and really had a great deal of admiration for Laketec. In fact, referred a few customers over to Laketec over the years.
Stuart. Stuart.
Yep. So, really always liked the things that were happening here, had a lot of respect for this team. And after I, sold my company and took some time off, I really, did some introspection to say, hey, what do I want to do next? And talked to them about where this was headed and decided this was the place for me. So
awesome.
Took the CTO role in early April, and it's been full speed ahead since then. So
a lot of evolution. I overuse that word probably, but yeah, I mean, obviously that's where we're talking today about AI for networking, your just overall exposure to it, and you're leaning into basically why it should be used more often and how we'll be using it not only internally but for customers too. Like that's kind of your passion, I feel like, right now.
It is. It's again that creating solutions, like creating novel ways to solve problems. Both new, established. I think obviously AI. Well, the modern state of AI. And we can talk about how long AI has been around. Yeah. But the modern state of AI and application to customer environments and even our own internal environments to make us more efficient, make us more effective. All the things that you've heard, all the benefits you've heard of AI, and apply that to networking and some of the other infrastructure management services we do. Because you brought Josh Arnold on a little while ago, so we do a lot with cloud services as well. So there's some conversations to be had about AI in that realm. I know more about networking, so we'll probably spend more time on that topic today. But there's a lot of good ways to use AI to innovate. Yeah,
that's awesome. And I know you're a beer guy too, so I believe me, it's with full sadness in my heart that we're not having a beer today. It's we're recording this middle of the afternoon, so not quite that time of the day yet. But yeah, I mean, I wish we were having a beer and talking seasonal beers because man, fall beers. I mean, I get it's late August, but it's fall beers time, peak time, and I'm all about that season.
Yeah, it is. It is a good time, and we'll have to find a way to get back together for another topic and have a beer in front of us. Yeah. We'll find another excuse to get back
before late October hits and Christmas beers come out. Why do they do that? I don't know why they do that, but just give me the pumpkin beers. I'll be having a pumpkin, I'm sure, at that point. We'll talk about it then. But yeah, I love this season right now. This is the sweet spot.
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, other than beers, I think this is my favorite season overall is fall. So we should definitely make time for that.
We'll just have to do that. Yeah. Awesome. We'll dive in here. Again, AI for networking is a topic we're going to be discussing today. We threw out an agenda here. We'll try to work our way through this best we can because as you started there before we went down the beer path, but we got to give beer a speak to there. You were talking about pie in the sky AI versus real life application stuff because actually, let's count how many people rolled their eyes when we said this is about AI for networking because it's just everybody speaks to that, but not the real life application to that and how it can actually help everybody. So let's dive into that and just talking about, just how it could help everybody, real life application stuff. Go ahead, get started with that conversation.
Yeah. So I don't know if you ever heard of the Gartner hype cycle. And, there's multiple stages of any new technology. And there's one called the trough of disillusionment, which I think that AI is starting to make its way towards because I think to your point, people are kind of sick of hearing about it. And I mean, to be fair, there is a great deal of AI washing in the industry where people are like AI, and it's not actually AI, or it doesn't really hold the same promise as some of the more advanced AI technologies, some of these products that are out there. But there's some things to that it really some innovative techniques and some innovative capabilities that the modern let's be specific about AI, because there's a lot of different types of
For
AI.
sure. Yep.
So talking about generative AI, and typically leveraging large language models, for that generative AI. But it has a great deal of promise and a great deal of capabilities, but you have to leverage it carefully. And I think a lot of people go to try and leverage AI to solve problems, and they quickly get frustrated because of things like hallucinations. So a hallucination is when you're leveraging an AI large language model and you're using natural language to ask it to answer a question or to help with something, and it gives you back a response that's not real. Because it either just doesn't have the right answer, or it just makes things up because it thinks it's what you want to hear.
Because you say hallucination, and I assume like way off topic. But in all reality, is it like something that's just like way off topic, or just like incorrect, but seems correct because it's in AI speak?
So it could be either. Sometimes it's like blatantly obvious, like, oh, that's totally wrong, and sometimes it's just enough of a tweak. So for example, there's been examples of lawyers using AI to research case law, and it will create cases that don't exist.
Okay.
And then these lawyers are putting these briefs in front of judges who go, this is not real. And so that it's across many different industries where people are leveraging AI. You have to validate the output that comes out of it. So you really have
first rule is don't trust it entirely. Like validate it.
Yeah, validate it, verify that the information that it's produced is correct. And and in fact, there's a lot of AI acceptable use policies that are a lot of employers are starting to put in place now, that put that responsibility on the employee to say, if you're using AI, if you're using generative AI to produce your work, you better make sure it's right, because you can't just be like, well, I don't know, the AI did it. That's you're going to have to verify that the work you're producing and that you're providing is valid. So
and that's just work situation. That I go back to like students in whether university or where are you, they produce like a term paper of like, you can give that or give it 5-page 10-page term paper, and they're like, oh, here it is, and like there was no validation, no work. What are your sources? Oh, ChatGPT. That qualifies, right? Not quite.
No, not at all. For some, saying there's some teachers that are just like, yeah, no AI at all in my class.
Yep.
So there's a lot of variation there for sure. But I mean, you've got to use it effectively, validate that it's correct. And there's also something to be said about learning how to prompt it correctly. So learning how to actually speak to it in a way that produces a better result. And actually a lot of these, and we could talk about some of the, the Gen AI platforms that are pretty popular.
Yeah,
so OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Google's Gemini. And then there's some open source models. So Meta has Llama, and actually OpenAI just created GPT OSS, which is an open source model that you can these things are you can host yourself as far as large language models to produce your own Gen AI capabilities privately and not shared publicly on the other public services. But they all have documentation and best practices recommendations on how to prompt AI. So the best ways to use Gen AI, for example, assigning a role to the LLM when you ask it a question, or whatever your prompt is going to be. So let's say it's a legal matter.
You give it a title.
Correct. You say you are a prominent legal expert in X type of law, which is what I'm about to ask my question about. So you kind of set that up to make sure that it knows, okay, framing wise, this is the perspective you need to take on whatever I'm about to ask.
You picture the speaker and the audience, and then how that information then is delivered and interpreted.
Right. And you're kind of assigning that that role to the AI so that it knows, okay, this is how I need to answer this question, and then being as specific as possible in the query that you're asking. So just think about it instead of laws in Ohio about dogs.
Yeah.
I don't
Tell
know.
me about this.
Right.
Like, no, you got to actually pick, paint the picture, right?
Paint the picture, get more specific. The more specific you are, the more specificity that you design into what's called the prompt. So, they're known as prompts. The more you can build into that prompt to make it more specific, the more accurate the information you're going to get back. So, and the same is true of all of these, that really helps the quality of the answers that you get out of it and helps prevent things like hallucinations and it giving you the incorrect answer.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Very good. And then we diving into, you mentioned, open source. You didn't mention commercial type. You're just speaking to the open source types of, of AI generating content. Speak to those, because there's a difference between like your free versions or our commercial versions. There are also free versions of those. Like kind of like, let's define those for everybody a little bit. Go that path.
Sure. So, well, number one, I think that there's what's become known as the foundational models of generative AI, and those would be the ones I mentioned before. They would be the Chat GPT, the Claude, the Gemini, the Llama. Those ones are the first and quickly emerging as the best. So they're kind of pulling away from the rest of the pack as the ones that have kind of conquered the whole LLM model development.
What makes them pull away from everybody else? It's because they're just the resources they're throwing at it. It's not just because they've been around a while. Like they're obviously doing more with what they've got there.
It's a few factors. One, they've perfected, or not perfected. They've got a really good, because they'll keep improving upon this, but they've got a really good system of what are called parameters. So the weights and the areas of focus to design into the large language model to make it more representationally accurate. And they're also the ones that have a tremendous amount of computing power to, I like to call it bake the cake. So baking the cake is creating a large language model where you're taking all of this information and you're adding those parameters to kind of determine attention to the topics and create a flavor for that large language model. And so the more parameters that are baked in, the more accurate that large language model becomes. And they are the ones that have the computing power to create those models, because it takes months and incredible amounts of computing power to create a large language model now. And it keeps getting, it kind of grows exponentially with each run, with each version of these large language models. For example, OpenAI just released GPT-5 recently, and that took months of training to actually get it into the state that it's in now. They do add additional layers after the fact, but the actual training of that model, baking that cake, takes a significant amount of time and effort. So there's the commercial models, like the foundational models. I would consider, those, and a lot of people use those on the back end via like APIs to connect to those to get questions. And so if you want to build your own application to have it leverage AI, but you don't want to, of course, build your own large language model.
The resources, and I mean, let alone hardware, GPUs, what have you. Again, I'm just gonna keep talking, but you need to like take that version and like mold it on your own. But how much effort does that even take to even mold your own at that point?
A lot now, and when you look at the wages that some of these researchers, the AI researchers are fetching now, in excess, some of them have been getting pay packages of like $100 million a year.
What?
Yeah. Yes. They're getting that now. The nerds have finally caught up with the athletes, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Maybe starting to surpass
NFL guaranteed money contracts. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. You want AI money, so maybe you should start pivoting into AI research instead. So the resources required to build these things out is significant. So typically you leverage an API from one of these foundation models. You build your app and then have it tie into that to actually get you'll send it what you need to get the answers you need back. And there's a few ways to build those out, but there are open source models where you can build your own. So, for example, Meta makes Llama, and you can actually download a model and run it privately. So it's completely, you can run it on a machine and have it completely separated from the rest of the world, and use it in the same way that you would use a ChatGPT or a Claude natural language to converse with it, get the answers you need. And you can actually, and we can talk more about this later, I think this is in our agenda to talk more about how you augment and enrich that data. But you can build your own with some of those open source models, and there's a lot of open source tools out there now as well to integrate all of these things together. So there's
integrating different like AI engines, generative AI engines together, then like
Correct.
to work together. Okay, gotcha. I assume they're all siloed. I assume like if you use one, then one's not like the other, and they just they're trying to keep everybody in their buckets, but they're all working together. Or they can't. At least the open source.
They can. For example, there's an open source project called Open Router, and Open Router is for literally routing calls to different AIs. So you can feed into it and say, here's an API key to connect to OpenAI's GPT model. Here's one to connect to Claude. Here's one to connect to Gemini. And I'm, based on whatever criteria I choose, and it might be dynamic, it might be selective. I might say, I want you to ask Gemini this, and then it will take care of the routing of that. It will, there's a lot of different ways to implement it, but there are tools like that can make it so it routes to different types of models. There's also, for coding, coding's another good example of, there's tools like, there's something called Cursor, there's Windsurf. So these are coding development interfaces, IDE, interactive development environment, I think is IDE. I could have that wrong, but
Okay. Keep going.
Fact check me, Mike.
Yeah,
Come on,
I'm not doing that. No, this is conversational. Chat GPT, fact check that. No, we're good.
Okay. So IDEs that can pick those multiple models and then tie in AI and then help you code better. And for example, Anthropic's gotten really good at that, and so they've kind of taken the mantle right now, which they're all kind of jockeying for position on these things. Sure. And it kind of it's the new space race. It's like they're all trying to outdo each other as far as performance goes on many different applications. But but I also want to talk about some of the maybe application-specific AIs that you have out there from a commercial perspective.
Some are better than others. Oh, you're talking about the commercial side.
So, like if we're talking about AI for networking, there's a lot of general-purpose tools that you could use. So you could use all of those things that we've been talking about to help get you answers about networking. But they might not have, network-specific domain knowledge. Where you might get that from, though, is like commercial offerings that are integrated with products. So a good example is like Juniper's Mist, and I think that's one of the first ones I saw that help create an AI ops sort of environment where you can talk with natural language with your infrastructure to get answers about, so where does this MAC address live? Where is this IP address at? How many VLANs do we have at this office, and what are they? So asking in natural language questions, which not just helps you get to your answers faster because you don't have to figure out what commands to type into these devices to get those answers, but also for junior engineers who might not have as much experience, they can just talk to the infrastructure with natural language. So Juniper Mist is a good example. Aruba Central also has their the mesh AI capabilities that they were just announced this year, which are really pretty interesting. Let's see. What else do we have out there? Nile and Meter are a couple of interesting network vendors that have those capabilities kind of baked in.
Up and coming a little bit, right?
They are. They're smaller organizations that are kind of AI native, AI first. They're kind of building from the ground up with an AI stack. Maybe need a little more time to mature and
just gather the data in order to then, or be able to handle the data. Like there's the AI you can speak to better than I can about your data science versus your data lake, and then of course just the amount of resources you have to handle all of that. Period. So are they're more on like they're evolving the data science to it, but aren't able to handle the data? Like talk about those different aspects of it a little bit.
Sure. So it's definitely some of those commercial products. They've thought a lot about that for you, so you don't have to think about it. So they'll figure out how to formulate that data lake and get more structured data that it's structured in a way that it's more useful to the LLM, and it's it's the properly encoded and tokenized and manipulated in a way that it makes it easier for the AI to interact with it, get the answers you're looking for. As far as doing your own sort of manipulation of data, there's a lot of tools out there to help with that. So let's say you wanted to start to build out your own custom internal, in-house AI. So you can leverage some of those commercially available large language models that we talked about, the foundational models, and then tie data into them with techniques like Model Context Protocol or MCP, where you can actually tie from data sources like API calls or tying right into a database and bringing that data to enrich the answers coming out of the large language model. So give that large language model capability to use tools outside of itself, outside of that baked cake.
Okay.
So think of it like this is like the toppings of
access
the cake.
to more resources, essentially. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. So you feed it in via Model Context Protocol. There's also something called agent to agent, which is more about agentic AI, which is think of it like an autonomous AI that goes off and runs and does a task, and then there's A2A, which allows those agents to actually communicate with one another to pass information. So if one agent has one type of job and another has a different one and they need to get information from each other, you can use that. And there's a lot of other protocols emerging. I think Cisco has one now too that they just open sourced. I forget the name of it. It's pretty new, but there's a lot of capabilities to incorporate additional data into large language models to give them more context about the questions you're asking.
Everybody's got their own, I feel like, and it's just kind of funny because you talk about interoperability of a lot of things, and you're just kind of helping the user out. Like I said earlier, I thought for sure all of these were siloed and no one had access to the same information and whatnot. But I mean, thank God there's tools that can help you do that. Otherwise, you're just speaking to one side of the room or gathering information from like one side of the library, if you will.
Right.
To show my age and be very old in my perception.
Did you get the card catalog out?
Oh, dude. I don't know. What's the system called?
Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Which, by the way, OCLC's in Columbus, the company that still holds the rights to that.
Really?
Yep.
Something I never researched and never thought of, but Ohio-based, baby. There we go.
There we go.
Awesome. Okay, so we dove down a lot of different pathways here. We touched on Aruba Central. We touched on Juniper Mist. We're talking about different models. So. I mean, let's get to Laketec and what we're kind of doing our own AI implementation of tools that we are using. It sounds like you have a few favorites. I didn't know the marketplace honestly looked like that. To tell you the truth, that's a lot of options. But where do you live the most? What tools do you use the most, and how are we doing that here going forward?
Sure. So we have a number of platforms that we use internally that expose APIs or application programming interface capabilities.
Acronyms kill people. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Never heard that one before. That's pretty good though. APIs give you a capability to tie directly into a system let's talk about Aruba Central as a good example. They expose an API interface where you can programmatically talk directly at Aruba Central to ask it questions, to even program things. So if you wanted to send commands to say program and rename an AP, or give it a new IP address, or change a setting on it,
simple networking tasks type of stuff.
Instead of doing that on like a command line interface, you can send it through this application programming interface into Central, which is an orchestration system where you can tell what to do, and then it pushes that configuration down to the devices. But reading that data out via API can be cumbersome unless you know how to programmatically do that. So creating like coding software, be it in Python, in Node.js, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. But not everybody's a programmer. And I think most people would like to interface with that data with natural language. So we talked about MCP or Model Context Protocol
Mm-hmm.
before. And that's actually a really novel way to tie in these generative AI LLMs into data that presents itself as an API. So MCP acts as the bridge to convert basically, AI speak,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better term. So the way that AI natively ingests and works with data into an application programming interface or a database call, or there's a whole ton of different options, and there's now hundreds of these different model context protocol servers that you could run that basically speak, they're translators to speak AI natively with the large language model, but then convert it into a language that whatever's on the other side can understand.
Okay. Again, like painting that picture. Yep.
Yep. So what we're working on is, we have a monitoring system, a system called Avic that we work with, where we've actually created an MCP server to interface with a large language model interface with Avic, with Aruba Central,
Mm-hmm.
to ask natural language questions and even tie those queries together to create the answers we're looking for. So a good example would be, tell me about any access points that are down in this customer environment,
Mm-hmm.
and which ones in particular, and then can you compare that inventory against Aruba Central, which would have those as well, and tell me something interesting about it. So and you may not even know what you're looking for. Maybe you can just be ask a general question like, have you noticed anything
Right.
out of
Speaking
the
to
ordinary?
patterns in the data.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything out of the ordinary at this environment, or
Mm-hmm.
anything anomalous in the past 7 days that is happening at this site?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's any number of queries that you can ask, but you can do so in natural language. So the difference between that and kind of the way we've always done things is you have to, as an operator, think about, okay, how does what the answers I want to get translate into commands, either on the command line or some interface that I've got to go hunt to,
Mm-hmm.
in say an Aruba Central or an Avic to figure out what this information is.
Bouncing around everywhere. Sorry, hand going for camera, but like bouncing around everywhere to like look for everything. It gives you like a I don't want to say source of truth, but a source of all information you have.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The system that has the answers you're looking for, knowing where to find that and how to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So what this presents for us, internally for now, eventually externally for customers as we develop this, is we've got to eat our own dog food first, or drink our own champagne, or whatever you want
Go
to
ahead,
say.
take your path. Go ahead.
We're building it up for ourselves so that we have additional capabilities to get to answers more quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps us support customers better. It helps us, be more efficient and make better use of our time and resources. So we're developing these things internally by leveraging, a Gen AI large language model that integrates with Model Context Protocol into other systems and brings that data together so that you can just talk conversationally with it to get the answers you need. It's read only right now. So right now it's good for pulling information, but we don't have any capabilities to push information. But eventually there may be capabilities to say, push configuration changes or things like that. Obviously we're treading lightly, testing carefully, slow rolling that, as we get to write capabilities out of LLMs. But just a lot of possibilities there, and
Sure, it's an evolution. I mean, it's
yeah.
again things we did not talk about as an organization, so we're responding to the market and kind of hearing what's going on. But that's why we're having this conversation too. Is just everybody wants to know. So how can this help my everyday day-to-day stuff? Your IT staffs are looking for ways to be more efficient. The end users looking for quicker answers. So how do we get there? Right. So like actually researching this and applying this in real life, it's big time, and this is what I feel like people are looking for too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of ways you can start small, and in ways to get started, especially just looking at the platforms you have today and seeing if they have any of these capabilities built in. I mean, that's an easy place to start.
Just takeaway right there.
Yeah.
Like I would just give it a shot, like, spend some time with it. But then that's why, you're in a position you're in. I'm not going to say I am, but that's why you're in the position you're in, is say that you're all the research and exposure and things you've done, like that knowledge is immensely valuable. Like this is very cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think kind of to bring it back to people's aversion to maybe hearing about AI or talking about it, you may be logging into a tool and go, this AI thing keeps bugging me. I don't want to use this stupid thing. I just want
Meeting
to
notes.
get my answer. Yeah, whatever it is, like these things are starting to creep into all the tools we use, and I'm sure. Just like, terms and conditions that people are like, okay, like, we're not getting to a point where like, no AI, just get out of my way. AI. It's like Clippy. Remember Clippy, little guy?
Yep.
It's like,
how can I help you today? Get out of my way.
Get out of my way. Yeah, that's how you can help me. Yeah. And there might be people who are doing that with AI right now, just move. I want to do what I want to do. Doing that, maybe just try it. Like if you're coming into it, you know what you're looking for, or maybe a better use case might be you don't know what you're looking for. You don't know where you're going to find this thing. Maybe give that little AI bobble that's hanging out in there a shot, for once to see if it can help solve your problem. Because I think that, and I've seen this time and again when I talk to people about AI and tell them to just try it, they're like, holy crap, I didn't know it could do that. And where it's like, you know what I mean? Like, how would you know unless you tried?
Yeah, you didn't think that's the question.
Yeah.
You didn't know the tool was there or that it could actually do anything for you that's truly helpful as opposed to just being pie in the sky situation.
And maybe they used it 3 years ago and it sucked. That's also a thing too, because I think us as humans, it's kind of human nature to, if you try something and it's terrible, maybe you don't go back to it. But in the age of generative AI and how quickly things are moving now. And I've noticed this. I observed this actually firsthand with tools we're using. So I use a lot of different AI tools for my day-to-day work. And one that we have internally, obviously, is Microsoft 365's Copilot, which is, I've used it. And just months ago, I used it, and I was like, it really wasn't doing what I needed to. And I just this week tried it again, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it is. It's way better than it was even just months.
What made it better? I gotta ask.
And we don't know because it's like something that it's Microsoft's development, and in the fact that I think that kind of back to that space race and how all of these big tech organizations are just forging full speed ahead when it comes to AI. They're just making changes and improvements all the time, and some of these tools are just going to get better under the hood without any public announcement.
And the acceleration of those changes.
Yeah.
Right now with the competition, it's always kind of what happens, right? So that's funny. It's months. Usually it's years in between AI tools actually generating enough context, enough data to do anything different. But wow, okay, fair enough.
It's changed quite a bit very quickly. So I would implore folks out there, give it a shot, and try some real live, ask real questions of these things, put them through its paces. Now I'm not saying it's gonna work, great in the first try, and it may be on you, like, sorry, Mr. Operator, but it may be on you. You might not have asked the right questions. So if you don't get the answer you're looking for, maybe think of a way to reframe it and ask it more specifically, or try to understand, what you asked and how you asked it when you get good answers. And that'll help you refine the way that you create your prompts and craft your prompts. I guess it's like anything else. The more you understand about how it works or how it interprets data and answers things, the better you can get at asking the questions that you need to.
For sure. Well, the data being the source of all that. Like, you could have a fantastic model does all the right things, but the wrong data or not enough data is included, and then the answers you're going to get are going to be a product of that.
Yes.
The quality of that data is going to matter.
It is. Yeah, tremendously. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot to be said for the data that you're feeding into AI, no matter what the platform. And there's a lot of different ways that you can get that in there now. Like I mentioned, that it seems like there's a new one, every day. So, I think using the tools you have at your disposal. So, and if you are a Microsoft user and you have Copilot enabled on your account, if you don't, ask your administrator. I think with the E3 and E5 licenses, you can get it added pretty easily. Copilot Pro added. You just need to learn how to work with it, how to ask the right questions, and really really be, I guess, conscious about how you're crafting queries. There are some great how-tos in there, and there's little agents that they have now inside of, and I just noticed these things this week too, where they will teach you how to craft your questions better, so that you can actually have, there's a prompting agent and you can ask it the question you want to ask, like, you could ask this better, this way or that way, or or
It's
ask
like,
you
could you
follow-up
just, you can
questions.
ask ChatGPT, ask that engine, how do I ask you this question to get the best answer?
You literally could. How could I ask this question better? Or I want to solve this problem. What questions should I ask? That's another way to put it. And sometimes they'll tell you stuff you're like, I never would have thought to even ask that. Yep.
That's funny. Okay. We talked about a lot today, diving into all sorts of things. And is there anything that we skipped that you think you want to touch on here before we finish up? I feel like we did our best there. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah, there is. And I know we jumped around a lot, but I think the key takeaways I have for anyone who's maybe AI averse or hasn't jumped in and played with it, I truly believe that this is one of the biggest technological sea changes in society since the dawn of the internet. Like this is a really, and it might even be bigger than the internet. So I would implore everyone to at least dip their toe in and have a conversational knowledge about AI, to at least understand the basics and use it. Because I truly feel from a workforce perspective, the ones that adopt and understand AI will have a great deal more capabilities and advantages, and a greater scale of efficiency than the average worker who is resisting or not using AI. And especially in if you're in white collar work and you're in information work, there is no getting away. Like these are tools that you will have to know how to leverage and use. I certainly think that in a lot of other fields, maybe not so much, but certainly in any of those fields, you've got to jump in and learn it. And employers, organizations are going to find more value in the ones that know how to wield AI versus the ones who won't. So I definitely have heard a sentiment out there of folks that are like, well, AI is going to take my job, so I'm not going to mess with it.
Right.
I think but I personally think that's the wrong approach, because if you don't learn how to wield it and leverage it and make it and have it make you to be a more efficient human that takes away maybe the mundane tasks you never like doing anyways, and those are probably the things you should start with AI. It's just like, I hate doing this routine.
Well, I built the bones of presentations, honestly, a few times, like doing that, like start this, and it just like it gets it going. Or even like social posts of certain things, and they just get some context, and then you mess with it, of course, like anything. But it gets everything moving faster.
Yeah.
And like kind of building the foundation, and then you kind of put the toppings on the cake then at that point.
Yeah, even just the brainstorming phase of starting any project, just like, how should I get this started? Just start there with simple questions, and then iterate. But I think those that are extremely resistant to AI and refuse to use it will be at a disadvantage in the future and in the near future. This is one of those things where the capabilities are just so great, and the advantages are just incredible. The efficiencies you realize when you're able to effectively use AI to do your job. I know for me, it's changed my workflow significantly, and like I said, I use a few different generative AI platforms to do what I do, and I even will use multiple for one task. I'll have one thing generate something, then take it to another one because I know it's better at something else. And I've gotten to know all of these things because I use them. I've gotten to understand that, as far as just like a general AI platform, that GPT is really good, but Claude is exceptional at coding and writing. So if I know I'm doing coding or writing tasks, I'll probably start with Claude to do that. Or if I'm just doing kind of more general, like ideation, or where should my wife and I go for dinner, or you know what I mean, just the kind
standard.
of the standard, like
consumer level type of stuff. Sure.
Really, what I used to use Google for, I kind of use ChatGPT for now.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So so there's a lot of different ways to go it, but I would implore people, use it. Don't be afraid. It's okay.
Dip a toe in.
Dip a toe in. Yeah. We'll all get there together. And also, if you're really kicking off a big AI project, get your house in order. I mean, most AI projects have difficulty even getting off the ground because they jump right in, and then they realize our data's a mess. Things are everywhere, and it's really difficult to infer quality insights out of messed up data. So the more you can do to organize it before you even start that AI project, the better, and the more successful you'll be. And the last thing I would say is, don't be afraid of open source. Like, obviously, if you can afford it or your organization can afford it, start with commercial offerings. They're usually more polished, easier to work with, more cohesive.
Well, it's a good way to dip your toe in using open source type of stuff. You're not feeding it like company sensitive or like private data.
It's actually, the open source is really good for the opposite of that. So or feeding sensitive data into a more secure platform. So if you want to build your own bespoke system where you feel it's secure because you have concerns about using some of these like foundational or public models, because you don't want to feed your extremely sensitive or private data, I think that's probably more of an application for open source models. And there's actually two great projects out there to start with that are both open source and free. There's one called Ollama, and there's another one called LM Studio, where you could download this application. Actually, the first time I used Ollama for this, I was stunned at how easy it was.
Okay.
So you basically load this thing up. You say, I want to use this model, and that part's kind of complicated. I would recommend people maybe don't start with DeepSeek, and I don't know if you know DeepSeek's a Chinese model that
oh, you did mention that.
Yeah,
okay.
You probably don't want to start with that one unless you really know what you're doing. But maybe start with a model like Llama, and you can do this on your laptop. You can get a 1 billion or 3 billion parameter, though, so it'll be like a Llama 3.1, 1B or 3B. It'll kind of be in that Ollama marketplace, and you can download it and you can run it on your laptop. Unplug it from the internet, have it completely be disconnected, and you'll be chatting in minutes with your own local large language model running on your laptop, and you can ask it questions, and whatever it knows, obviously it doesn't have any additional context other than what was into that cake when it got baked, the whatever ingredients are in there, and that's what you're getting. But if you do that, you can have a completely disconnected from the internet private conversation and with an AI right on your machine. So if you want to build out your own applications, you can do that. And then there's also a lot of great other open source technologies and ways to tie in a few of these different things, kind of like what we're doing here, which is we're actually developing our own code to leverage model context protocol to talk to platforms, and then bring that all back to our own large language model to talk to it. So
buy the cake from Costco, decorate it yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Good way to think about it.
Cake Costco too. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Violating our own rules, going beyond 30 minutes, but there's a lot to talk about. It was hard to. No, you're good. It was hard to find a stopping point. It's all set. No, it's awesome. There's good stuff. And I know there's more to come. I know we always do the let's get technical type of stuff that Phil's done in the past for Wi-Fi 7 and all sorts of things like that. But I know you're working on Laketec Labs here coming up too.
We are. So we're going to be kicking off a new initiative called Laketec Labs, where little bite-sized chunks of tech know-how and knowledge. And of course, Phil will be a big part of that. He's the wireless wizard, amongst other things. He knows so many things so well. So
I'm including all our team best we can in that regard. But we're going to evolve that a little bit and not doing just these larger type of technical videos. We'll try to get more precise with that and going Laketec Labs, do a real rebranding there, but with a purpose.
That's right. Yeah, I'm excited to put some of that content out. So be on the lookout for those.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, we'll call it there. Thank you, Jason, so much for jumping in here.
Sure.
I don't think I did actual intro at the beginning. Jason Gintert, CTO of Laketec, so I'll do it there at the end. But thank you so much.
Works.
This was a good conversation. Appreciate it. But more to come. Reach out to us any which way you can if there's more questions you have or more further conversation here coming up. But thank you so much for watching another episode of Network Buzz, Laketec Podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.